We've got two more, I think, really fascinating conversations. The first one is with someone who you may not know, but with an organization you definitely do know. I think I'm not going to tee it up any more than just say, please join me in welcoming the Executive Director of the Sierra Club, Michael Brune.
All right. Hey, Joel.
Welcome. I'm going to ask you the same question, start off with the same question that I asked Annie Leonard the other day, which is that she told us, by the way, that people in the NGO world don't say, how's it going anymore? They say, nice to see you. So nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
But how has your game plan changed over the past couple of months or so?
Not at all. Why do you ask?
I've been reading things. I think I saw it literally on Twitter. But you didn't expect this. You didn't probably have a game plan for this new administration. Does it change anything, or is it kind of what you've always been doing?
Yeah, I don't mean to be facetious. I would say it's changed everything that we do, and it's changed nothing in terms of what we're doing. Everything in the sense that, like the way that we feel that change happens is a combination of action at the federal level, at the state level, and then in the private sector. So thanks to all of you who are driving change and being innovative and creative and effective at helping to make sure that we're making progress on climate change and a range of environmental issues. Now we're sawing off one of those legs of the stool, and so the Sierra Club's response, along with a lot of other groups, is to resist that as much as we can. Sometimes that means challenging what the administration will be doing in court. Sometimes it means challenging it in the court of public opinion so that voters and other citizens are expressing their views on what the administration is doing. And a lot of times what that means is working at the state and local level to make progress in places that we're falling behind. But a lot of what we're doing hasn't changed that much at all, because particularly on climate change, most of the way in which we're making progress right now, again, is in the private sector or locally. So when it comes to replacing coal plants with clean energy, or not building new oil and gas pipelines in favor of advanced energy solutions, a lot of those decisions are made at the state and local level or in front of public utility commissions or whatnot. So that work, really trying to bring solutions into the marketplace on climate change and other issues, continues almost unabated and almost unchanged.
Maybe we should step back for a second and talk a little bit about what the Sierra Club is. You are sort of, we've had a lot of elephant metaphors here. We've had, the elephant in the room, and how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? But this is the one about the blind man and the elephant, who everybody sort of looks at it a slightly different way. Some people see you as you do hikes and local activities. Some you're out there protesting and a la Greenpeace and other activist organizations. Some see you working in the local communities, Climate Justice Act. Well, talk about the sort of the pillars or what you're focused on these days.
Okay, sure.
And a little bit about the membership. Just give us the sort of sketch.
All right. Okay, well, while we're taking a step back, first, thanks for inviting me here. And thanks in particular for creating this space. This is my first time at GreenBiz, and the space that you've created here is really important for the work that the Sierra Club does, so thank you. Sierra Club's mission is to explore, enjoy, and protect the planet. The first two parts, exploring and enjoying, are critical to what we do. We really do want to bring joy into the work of environmental advocacy. So we lead thousands upon thousands of outings every year, ranging from a 2-hour hike in a local county park to a 14-day trek in the Himalayas. We are an organization that is very volunteer-driven. We have more than 10,000 volunteers who have titles, who spend 20, 30 hours a week working, either leading those outings or working for environmental protection. And we have 2.5 or 2.7 million members and supporters. This isn't people on a list. This is people who have taken action in some way over the last year.
They all put in money? Have they all?
Many of them make financial contributions. Many of them show up at marches, or they'll testify at hearings, or they'll engage in trying to make the world a better place in some way. So a lot of what people know the Sierra Club for is our advocacy efforts, whether it's working to, as I said before, replace coal plants with clean energy, or protect millions of acres of some of the more biological or culturally appropriate places, or whether it's working with folks and companies in the private sector to drive change. Most of the work that we do is collaborative. Occasionally, we will engage in a more confrontational approach to companies in the private sector. But our goal is to work towards solutions, even if doing so might be a bit contentious along the way.
You soft pedal that sometimes we do get involved. I'm not sure that's exactly how people in this room see Sierra Club, and I think some of them may see you as this activist group that comes in and tries to get companies to do things that may or may not be something they are willing or able to do. How do you view the business community? I know that's a very broad, general question, but give us a sense of how you see the Sierra Club's role in working with or against or in any way connected to the business community. And I'm talking about particularly the mainstream big companies that are in this room.
Sure. Well, the way that we view the business community is what I said at the beginning, which is critical agents in driving positive change on a range of environmental or civil rights or human rights issues. Most of the time, the way that we engage with the business community is specifically driving towards solutions. So when we're working to not support a gas plant from being built, and we're advocating for a range of clean energy solutions, most of the time the reason why we win is because we're partnering with the local business community who are saying that a combination of energy efficiency technologies and solar and wind and energy storage will be a better solution for consumers. So we'll have large energy consumers who are working with us or companies in the clean tech space who are working with us. Other times, the way that we're engaging with the business community is through social media or online action or grassroots pressure, where we're looking to push a company or push an industry to go farther. And so to get real, our approach in that is that we're not trying to criticize a company because we're against corporate power or we're against the existence of that company or that industry. If it's your company or in your industry, we're trying to find ways to solve problems. Our guiding belief is that most people, most companies, most institutions want to be a part of driving positive change. And our guiding belief is that people will respond to criticism. I know that I'm doing my job well when, if someone is criticizing me, I listen. I look for the truth in that criticism. I identify what can be done to address that criticism, and then I make changes. And so that's our approach to dealing with companies, regardless of what industry they're in, is to say, here's what the world needs. Here's what the ecological imperative is. We see an opportunity for your company to do more. And here's some feedback from your customers or your investors or the general public to get there. And then we try to find a reasonable way, a reasonable timeline to meet those goals. And we try to listen to what companies are saying so that we're coming up to a mutually agreeable solution.
That sounds good and constructive and positive. And I think in the daily scheme of things, it doesn't always feel that easy. And I think one of the challenges and this isn't specifically about Sierra Club, although I would include Sierra Club in this bucket of organizations, is that I think a lot of companies feel that we can never be good enough. And it's always stop this, do this, stop this, do this. And the one thing that they don't hear that I think would be an easy thing to do, but it would go a long way in the relationship, is just 5 words. Thank you, now do more. In other words, to say, we want you here.
Yep.
You're here. You got here. This is good. Thank you.
Yep.
And the fact that they don't get that thanks is often frustrating, not just personally, but also the fact they're not getting the credit internally. Yep. They're not getting the bite. They say, well, we did this, and we're still not getting anything from Sierra Club, and why should we even bother to go here now?
Yeah, sure.
Is that something do you acknowledge that, first of all, that may be something that you could do better?
Yeah, sure. So what I'm hearing you say is that we emphasize on the last 3 words, the now do more, and not the first 2 words, the thank you. Yeah, I get that. I totally get that. And I think it's certainly something that the Sierra Club could do better, something that the environmental movement could do better on. It's something that humans could do better at, right? You know, the Sierra Club is an anti-authoritarian, very democratic organization made up of lots of change makers. So I'm the target of criticism and desire from my own staff to do things, or volunteers or board, to do things differently or go further or go faster. And so when I'm putting my whole life force into making some kind of change, and I feel as though I'm making some significant progress, and then someone else is saying, you got to go farther, you got to go faster, if my effort or if my progress isn't being acknowledged, it doesn't feel so good, and it might not be all that motivating. So I do acknowledge that that dynamic is true. And we are making a very sincere effort to acknowledge progress wherever we see it, whether it's a governor who set a policy to advance clean energy, 40% of what we thought could be done, or whether it's someone in the private sector going far, but maybe not as far enough to solve the problem. I see this as a good opportunity for us to not lose sight of where we need to go as a society, but also to measure progress along the way. I'm not trying to soft pedal this or to make it sound better than what it really is. I do think that a lot of the criticism of civil society or public policymakers or those in the private sector often is deserved, because we are making progress as a country on climate change and many other issues, but that progress isn't enough. We do have to go farther. We do have to go faster. But I do think that offering positive feedback along the way is important.
I want to talk about climate justice, because that's something that I know has become a core of your activities at the Sierra Club. And I also want to acknowledge that it's not something that, in fact, it's possible. I don't know for sure. That may be the first time those two words have been uttered in that order in this conference over the last 3 days. I don't know that it's been really part of our conversation, and shame on us for that. We will try to do better going forward. But I'd like you to sort of talk about that. What is it, first of all, what does it mean to you? And where do you see the role for the private sector in that movement?
Okay, well, just to move beyond the buzzword, if it is a buzzword, what climate justice means pretty simply is just that everybody should benefit from the transition to clean energy. And it's an acknowledgement that a person can make a good case that the two biggest challenges right now facing society are climate change and inequality, and they are linked. We have an opportunity as we transition towards clean energy to make sure that the prosperity in the clean energy sector is shared among a wider percentage of the population than might otherwise be, and that low-income communities, communities of color, who may not have access to electric vehicles, they have it. They do have that access, or they may not have the ability to enjoy clean energy in the electric sector, that they do have an opportunity to participate in that sector of the economy. But climate justice also means that the tens of thousands of people who still work in the coal mining industry, they have a role in this clean energy economy, or those who are currently employed in oil and gas rigs or building pipelines, that they have a place in a clean energy economy. Addressing the opportunity to have the clean energy prosperity be more broadly shared is one part, making sure that the communities who are on the front lines, who are facing a disproportionate share of the pollution from fossil fuels, that they're a part of this, but also making sure that the people in Appalachia or those who are working on rigs in the Gulf or who might be constructing pipelines, that they see a role for themselves and their families. They see a way of life in this economy as it becomes more vibrant and larger.
So what are you doing? What's the Sierra Club program around climate justice?
Lots of stuff. So part of what we're doing, one program that we have is what we call our Ready for 100 campaign, which is to get cities, universities, companies to make a commitment to go to 100% clean energy and to make that transition in a way that works for workers or all residents in that particular city. So there's a large equity component to that work. Another part of what we're doing is, as we are advocating for coal plants and increasingly gas plants to be replaced by clean energy, through our litigation, through our organizing, through our lobbying, we are negotiating settlements for the workers who work in those coal plants or those gas plants, also the people in those coal mines. And then from a lobbying and organizing perspective, we're working to push Congress to pass the Reclaim Act and other bills that would offer support to coalfield communities and economic diversity, opportunities for economic diversity for those communities. Also working to protect the pensions of coal miners, et cetera.
How do you work? Is there a role for companies there? First of all, do you take corporate money?
We do. We have a business partnerships program where we, as I said before, we have 2.7 million members and supporters, and so we work with a number of companies to basically offer access to our members. And so we do take some corporate money. We have pretty strict screens.
Tell about the screens. Who wouldn't you take money from? I would imagine a fossil fuel company.
It's not being offered, but yes, we would not take money from the fossil fuel company. We don't take money from the federal government or state governments. We're mission oriented, right? So we will partner with companies who we feel have a strong, proven track record in working towards environmental solutions.
Yeah. So in the climate justice, what's your ask of these people, the business community? How could they be helpful?
I'll say two things to be really specific. One is to make a commitment for your company to move all the way towards 100% clean energy, and to think through, regardless of what your company does, what you produce, what part of the sector you're in, to think through how that transition could be made in a way that works for the communities in which you operate and the customers that you serve. The second piece, we haven't really talked that much about our new president and the challenges that we're facing in our democracy. But the second request I have is to find a way to engage. I do think that we are in a critical moment in our country's history. There are severe threats to our democracy. I understand that it's easy for an advocacy group like the Sierra Club to engage in this, and it's much more different and difficult for those in the private sector to find ways to engage that don't threaten your customer base or alienate investors. But it's critical that you do engage, whether it's encouraging your employees and your customers to register to vote, or whether it's considering holding town hall meetings where representatives of Congress can come into your company's headquarters or an office along with the general public, so that there can be an increased dialogue and increased understanding and perhaps a reconciliation of opposing views. To step away from politics or democracy, I think in this moment is a bigger risk than actually engaging. So I do acknowledge the complexity in that, but I wish that more companies would be vocal and be active in ways that work for you.
Let's see if we can fit in a quick question, Elaine. Yep. Did not mean to step on your applause line, Southern.
Yeah, so one question is about your position on carbon pricing as an effective way to drive down greenhouse gases. So even if it's not necessarily carbon pricing at the government level, which a lot of our folks may not be able to influence but can be activists around, specifically maybe even internal carbon pricing within companies.
Our position is supportive. You know, the details often matter, but generally speaking, we think that we need to put a price on carbon. We recognize that it can be done in a lot of different ways internally or at the city, much less state and federal level. So we do support it conceptually. And then, you know, there will be times when we have advocated strongly for bills in Congress that would do that, or at the state level, and then sometimes the actual policy equation doesn't work and we oppose. But now and for the long term, we're supportive of carbon pricing. We think it's important.
I'm sure you saw the moderate Republican carbon. Mm-hmm. Do you work across the aisle? Are you able to reach across it all with find allies, or are you pretty much on the one side?
No, we definitely work across the aisle. The Sierra Club's been around for 125 years. We've had executive leadership who have been Republicans for a long time. We make thousands of endorsements in each political cycle of Democrats and Republicans. So we do work across the aisle. I have to say, though, that right now, particularly at the federal level, it's hard to be bipartisan. The fact of the matter is that you have most of the Republican Party who is hostile to science, hostile to action on climate change, and it makes it very, very difficult to engage at a human, real level with people who aren't acknowledging facts.
Are there a few that are sort of behind the curtain are willing to talk with you? They just can't be public about it?
There are, but that's not valuable. You know, it's not valuable for someone to say off camera when the mics are off screen, I agree with you, and then every time they have an opportunity to vote, they don't vote the right way.
Yeah,
so
I get
we're
that.
looking for real change.
Yeah, aren't we all? Thank you for working across this aisle with the business community. We really appreciate it. Please join me in thanking Mike Brune. Thank you, my friend.